My name is Greg McGarity, and I get to serve as the CEO of the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl and Gator Bowl Sports. What a year it's going to be in 2024 as we kick off the season Saturday as the Noles and Georgia Tech play overseas at noon. So starting on Saturday for the next 10 days, there are going to be 100 college football games. So enjoy, and we'll visit with James here in a second.
What's going on, world? It's your boy at Big Game James _36, and I'm here with Greg McGarity, and this is the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl Drive to Selection presented by Toyota, where each and every week we're going to come to you and give you what's happening in college football as it relates to the Gator Bowl and other news around college football. I just turned 40. I am half the age of the Gator Bowl, and I was able to participate in it as well. Like, this is big news. Like 80 years, that's a big deal.
That's right. That's I'm turning 70 this fall too, so I got you, man. So you'll never catch me, okay? But you're right. 80 years is remarkable. It's something that we're really proud of. It just tells you the aura and the prestige that this game has held in the community and also in college football. So 80 years, and we know the 80th TaxSlayer Gator Bowl is going to be dynamic this year.
A lot of things coming up for the Gator Bowl over the next few years, but again, memorizing this accomplishment right here, make sure you stay tuned and check out a lot of the information that's coming out about the Gator Bowl. We've had some really, really notable names playing this game, from coaches to players and different things like that. Who are some key people that people should just be paying attention to?
Well, of late, Lamar Jackson at Louisville. I mean, you've had a father-son duo of Peyton Manning and Archie Manning playing the game. You've had coaching greats, Woody Hayes, Vince Dooley, Bobby Bowden, you name it. There's so many wonderful names and famous names that have played in this game. So I'm sure there'll be some names added this year to the two competing teams.
Yep, be fun. Again, 80th Gator Bowl. Just continue to stay tuned for that. But what are the tie-ins? I guess not the tie-ins. What are the teams that we're looking for when it comes to the Gator Bowl?
Well, it's really interesting this year because there are no longer conference tie-ins to certain bowls. Like the SEC is not tied into the Sugar Bowl. The ACC is not tied into the Orange Bowl because of the college football playoff. So what this does, it creates a dynamic to where teams that aren't in the college football playoff, in the ACC, will have the first pick as well as the Pop-Tarts and the Holiday Bowl. So depends on how many teams play up in the SEC as well as the SEC. So a lot of interesting dynamics, but the top 12 will play, and as I mentioned earlier, there are no tie-ins, which sometimes took teams out of competition for our game due to those tie-ins.
Okay, so ACC, SEC, college football officially kicks off this weekend with a big-time ACC matchup. Actually, a couple ACC teams are playing this weekend, but the first one, which we'll talk about, that has ties to this, will be FSU versus Georgia Tech. What are your thoughts on this game in Ireland? A lot of things going on, and what should our fans of the Gator Bowl be looking for in that game?
Well, I think you've got an FSU team, obviously with a new quarterback, seasoned veteran there. I think FSU's defense is really going to be really, really good. That you would know more about that than I, but I think Georgia Tech, the way they ended the season, they are really good at quarterback. They've got a tested team. I think they're a team on the rise, and I expect it to be a very competitive game, which kicks off at 12 noon Saturday. So that'll kick off the college football season. I think there'll be so much interest in that game, but I think you'll have a close game.
Yeah, a lot of buzz coming in that. I think Georgia Tech was 7-6 last year, returning 75% of their production on both sides of the ball. Florida State obviously finished 13-1. A lot of production on defense, but a lot of new names, a lot of potential. I told a lot of FSU fans it's kind of reminiscent of 2022. Mm-hmm. Hopeful, but you have no idea. One of the worst words in football you could ever. Worst and best words is potential. Potential means you're going to be good. It also means you haven't done ish to make it clean, PG-13 for the fans. But something else I didn't realize, again, in my arrogance of Florida State and the only thing that matters in the world, did not realize that there's a lot of football that's going to be played over here over the course of the next 10 days. But apparently we have highlighted SMU, another ACC team, is going to be participating in the game. Any thoughts on SMU in the conference, and what is that, like a team like SMU potentially coming to Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think they're the big unknown because nobody's really had eyes on SMU in college football in general. So I think they're a team that's going to be on the rise. They are so excited to be in the ACC, and even though they aren't starting ACC play in their first two games, I think they're a team that you're going to have to keep your eyes on because they're going to surprise some people. Tremendous following, a great institution. So, I think we have 100 games over this 10-day period. So to say college football's getting on to a fast start would be an understatement.
Yeah, and a lot of people, just because of things that are changing the landscape, like name, image, and likeness, 12-team playoff, a lot of these different things, that the first thought is, oh my God, the world's changing, the product's going to get diluted. But when I saw 100 games in 10 days, my eyes lit up. I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of football. If you like football, and it's some really, really good matchups, some of which we'll probably dive more deep into next week because we were doing a show every weekend. But what are some of the key changes? We talked about it a little bit. So what does the 12-team playoff kind of change in general for college football?
Well, I think the first four teams obviously get a bye. So you've got teams 5 through 12 playing at the home institution of the seeds 5 through 8. So how those rankings pan out are really going to be important because you could be playing at home if you're not in the top four. I think it adds more interest during the season because instead of just the top four, you're now talking about the top 12. But James, you know what's going to happen is the 5th seed is still going to be talked about, and the 13th or the 13th team that's out, they're going to be talked about because they weren't in the top 12. So you're going to have dynamics. It's just like the Final Four. You're always talking about the teams, who was on the bubble, who's out, first team in, first team out. You're going to have that same level of excitement. So I think it just extends itself into December to whereas in the past you might have known maybe 3 of the 4, but now trying to predict all 12 teams, I think that's going to be difficult to do and add a lot of excitement, and games will be more meaningful in December.
Which is really what, especially from a media perspective, that's really all you can ask for is playing meaningful games late in the season. And now 1 loss, potentially 2 losses, doesn't knock you out of the playoff contention. You could legitimately have a top 4 seed with 2 to 3 losses as long as they win their conference. Is that correct?
Well, the conference winners are automatically in regardless of what happens. So what happened to FSU last year can't happen this year, which is a good thing because conference champions have a place. But I think you're going to see some interesting dynamics there as far as strength of schedule. If you lose 2 or 3 games, but those two or 3 games are against the top 10 teams in the country, again, it gets down to the committee on the eye test. They'll have all the data you can imagine to look at, but it's going to come down to the eye test, which was the case last year, and who's going to play in the game, who's hurt, who's able to play. I think those dynamics are still in play.
So how does a team like Notre Dame get affected by this? They're not in the conference. They're going to they're ranked top 10 currently. Probably if they have a season again where they're a 1 to 2 loss team at max, they'll be considered for the college. They'll be a top 12 team. Do they get an opportunity for the top 4, or is that only slated for the Power 4 conference champions?
Yeah, only the 5 conference champions are guaranteed winners now, and one of those conferences is the group of 5.
Oh,
so it could be Texas State, it could be Tulane, they'll have a spot. Now, usually they'll be ranked 12th because they probably won't be in the top 11 unless some really wacky things happen. But I think those are things that are going to come into play. But you're just going to have some dynamics there that are unforeseen, challenges that are ahead. But I just think that adds to the excitement. To your point, games are going to be really meaningful, and week 1 or week 0 is really going to be just as important as week 14 or week 15.
Also, the conference championships become crazy important. Actually, got a chance to witness this by playing the college football video game, which hasn't been here for over a decade. But you're playing in that championship, let's say, I think if we go back a few years ago, the Georgia LSU game, where LSU, I believe, had 3 losses, if I remember correctly. They upset Georgia. If they upset Georgia in this current format, they're going to be one of the top teams. And now you're going to have obviously Georgia will probably still be in the playoff, but it would throw things kind of out of loop. So, and that's what makes college football so great. You really have no idea of how you can predict the future, and you just got to play the games.
And you mentioned Notre Dame earlier, right? They cannot qualify for one of the conference champions, but in all the discussions on how this all plays out, I think Notre Dame probably thinks, and probably rightly so, that they're going to be in the top 12. But you had to have some give and take, and Notre Dame was represented on the committee and on the executive board, so they had a say. But I think really they probably took one for the team to basically say, well, we acknowledge we may not be in the top 4 or not eligible for a conference championship, but we feel pretty confident we'll be in the playoff. And at Notre Dame, that was really the only point they could make.
So how does the college football playoff play out? Like, are the games during bowl season? Are they after? How does that schedule kind of look like?
Well, we start the week before Christmas, and teams that are ranked 5 through 8 will host teams. 5 will play 12, 6 will play 11, and so on the week before Christmas. And then around the 31st and the 1st, you'll have the quarterfinals. And then you'll have the semifinals the 9th and 10th of January. And then you'll have the national championship on the 20th of January. So everything slid back. The national championship moved back a week. So you're just playing college football later in the season, and some team theoretically could be playing 17 games this year.
Oh wow, that's a
lot of
football. Yeah. And with that comes a lot of other different things. But for the fan, hey, it's a lot of football.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Any other kind of shifts that are happening in college football that everybody needs to be aware of going into the season?
Well, I just think coaches are happy to be done with all this stuff with NIL. I think Mike Gundy from Oklahoma State said it best. It's time just to do what they've always done, is play football and not worry about all that other stuff. But I think the exciting thing for our game is that, there are even some prognosticators that are predicting right today a game hadn't even been played. Every one of those matchups really looks appealing, except one, which was Tennessee and North Carolina State. They can't play each other because they play this season. So we know that Clemson and Kentucky can't play in our game. We know South Carolina and Notre Dame can't play because of the timing that they played in relative to them coming back. It's too close to when they participate in our game. So that opens the door to many teams. How does Oklahoma and Texas affect our pick? And how does Stanford and Cal and SMU affect the ACC pick? So a lot of interesting dynamics with 5 new teams that are in the mix now. So we'll just have to see how the season plays out.
So for those who don't know, automatic disqualifiers, if you've played in the Gator Bowl in the last 2 to 3 years, 3 pushing it, but definitely the last 2 years, can't come back. Got to go somewhere else. If there's no rematches or previews of the next season. Right. So like last year, no matter what happened, Florida, Miami would not have been able to play because they opened up the season. Florida, Miami will not be able to play each other this year, much like you said, Tennessee and North Carolina State can't play this year. So when you see these prognosticators, the whole purpose of this is so that you can be smarter than the experts. Because a lot of times the experts don't know what they're talking about because they talk about a lot of things. Yeah. But again, 80th year, tons of information going to be coming to you guys, showing the history of the Gator Bowl, also the events. Looking forward to having another great Gator Bowl, 2 great teams. Hopefully my team won't be there, but even if they are, as Brett McMurphy has predicted, it will be an amazing Gator Bowl. So with that being said, please stay tuned for us next week for the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl Drive to Selection presented by Toyota, where each and every week we go over the landscape of college football and how it affects the Gator Bowl here in Jacksonville, Florida. See you guys next time.
segment. I'm sure you all have missed us tremendously in the off season, and we're glad to be back. It's been a really, really busy off season here as we prepare for celebration of the 80th anniversary of the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl game, which James and Greg talked about earlier. They alluded to this, but just to kind of hone in, please pay attention, especially on Thursdays this year through football season, as we have digitized all of the footage from the first game all the way through current year, and are going to share some really cool throwback moments with you guys on our social media. So please tune in, and if you have stories about games that you shared, I guess you attended, we would love to hear your personal stories about some of the iconic moments that you got to witness here at what is Everbank Stadium, but the old Gator Bowl game. We're going to kick off the season. I'm going to talk about membership, and then Kayla's going to share with you a little bit about upcoming events in charities. But the first thing is we are having a back to football party. So it's week 0. Next week we'll celebrate week 1 of college football with a tailgate for the Times. It's a membership only event. So if you're not a member yet, it's probably time to reach out and get to be part of the Cool Kids Club as we get back to football. We're going to celebrate the 80 years. We have about a 20-minute film that we're going to broadcast to showcase year 1 through year, 79. We'll be sharing that on social with you too. But members, we look forward to seeing you next Thursday night. It's August 29th from 6 to 9 p.m. If you need more information about that, feel free to give us a call. And now let's talk about charities.
Yeah, we've been pretty busy with Gator Bowl charities all throughout the summer, and we've got a lot going on this fall as well. So you've hopefully seen on our social media, we launched the new TaxSlayer Gator Bowl Dream Team. So now 12 new team members have joined us for the year. Every week throughout football season, you'll get to meet one of them and kind of get to know their story. But 2 programs I want to highlight today are existing programs that you've heard us talk about before. One being our Gator Bowl Charities Award of Excellence Scholarship presented by Momentum Transportation. It is a scholarship for high school senior student athletes. So we will award 4 scholarships of $2,500 to 4 student athletes across Northeast Florida, Southeast Georgia. So information will be down below. The deadline to apply is October 28th. So make sure if you know a senior, if you are a senior in high school, that you have them apply sooner than later. We look forward to having them be our recipients of the scholarship, as well as our guests at the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl this year. And then the other program I want to talk about is our Most Valuable Teacher program, presented by FIS in partnership with the College Football Playoff Foundation. We love teachers here. You've probably gathered that. Both of our moms are teachers, and so we love to be able to give back to the teachers in our community. This is our 4th year of MVT, so every week throughout college football season, we'll be awarding a teacher $1,000 to use in their classroom. So we have our first surprise lined up for this Friday. We're really excited to get in the classrooms again and be able to surprise these teachers. The teachers can apply themselves, so if you are a teacher, go apply, or you can nominate a teacher. So if you know a great teacher, your student or your kid has a great teacher, please nominate them. It is open to the surrounding counties, so it's been Duval only in the past. We have opened it up to Clay, Nassau, and St. Johns County this year as well. So we're going to be all over celebrating teachers, and then make sure to stay tuned to our social media as well to see who each week we surprise. I think that's all from us. Like I said, we're busy. You'll get to hear about a lot of new programs every week, membership and charities, and we will look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one.